Hey everyone, welcome to the episode of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. With me tonight, Billy Beeman. No Jake, but that's okay. What's up, Billy?
Oh man, it's holiday season, isn't it? Yeah, man. Happy holidays to everybody out
It
there.
is.
Getting one more show in before Christmas. Had to do it. Had to do it. We don't sleep around here. But I had eight teams in the semifinals. Only half made it, so it could be worse.
That's not bad.
There were some that I thought were gonna make it that didn't, which hurts. But yeah, man, I'm feeling okay, and I'm ready for some dynasty final exams. We're gonna talk about that a little bit today. Might have a little bit shorter show, 30, 45 minutes or so. But how you doing, Uriah?
Doing good. Same boat. 50% of my teams made it to the finals, so you know you're there at least. Shit, right? Like you're in the
Can't
money.
com- really,
But
yeah. Listen, really can't complain about it. Like I said last week, I was gonna try to just seep in the glory of having that many teams even attempting to get in, and then you just know you're gonna be disappointed at some level. It's almost harder to have more teams in because you know that it's like the letdown's gonna be serious. But again, I think as a pod we're rocking pretty strong. I don't know
yeah,
Jake's numbers exactly, but he's got to be close to 50 or so. I know he got in a couple of them in the DU leagues as well. So shout out to the whole pod. We're doing pretty good, and it's an exciting end to the season. Real quick here,
Sup
sup boys
Slashy.
and YouTube comments, Slashy in there. Appreciate you being here live. Yeah, with that, I mean, may as well hop into it, right? We got some injuries to talk about. Of course, heading into the finals, can't have anything nice in this fucking game. It's insane.
No. So yeah, we'll just speak on it real quick. We got George Kittle, high ankle sprain, but now it's a mid ankle sprain. And the joke is, hey man, the sprain keeps getting lower by the day. But uh, I I wouldn't expect him to play, but I'm no doctor. It
Yeah,
just
no,
sucks. You know?
yeah, I'm right with you there, Uriah. I mean, look for other options. Start prepping now. I'm not excited about any kind of ankle injury going into the end of the year here. When I think I could be wrong, but I believe that they're in the playoffs, and I don't think much can happen for them not to be in the playoffs. I didn't double check that, but I find it hard to believe that they would risk Kittle in that way. So yeah, I'm in pain because he's on like 40% of my rosters and definitely on at least two or three of my finals roster. So that's gonna hurt. But the only thing is unless you have some depth on your roster already, which you may, but Ton just filled in really good
He
early in the
did.
year,
Well,
and
he did.
he's definitely on waivers in a couple leagues still. So you may want to that get ahead of it, attack that, because again there's not going to be many people hitting waivers right now, though they should be, but there's not going to be many, so you might be able to just get in there and do it. But that's my Kittle take, not much else from there.
Cool. JJ McCarthy 9. Hairline fracture, so another soft benching for that boy. This is like the sixth time this year.
Soft benching, actually it was his throwing hand, no, so I mean, like, it's
I
if
know, I know.
it is a fracture, no, I mean, I feel you on that, though. There's definitely some of that for sure potential there. Yeah, it's just he's not been able to stay healthy, and obviously
No, it's crazy.
players, and you're not healthy until you are. So I don't think that it's impossible for him to have a full year or something ahead of him. He's a young player, so I'm not getting too crazy about it. But again, like with this, I kind of think it's another buy low period, because we've seen over and over again with McCarthy that, like, even when there's dips, there's a rise back up. He has played better
Sure.
than he played early in the season, and so I do think that it's really possible that you could get in for a decent price and still, make some good return on that investment long term. So just another window to get in on McCarthy and move off him eventually. I think I was a little more encouraged for his long term potential after seeing what I saw before the injury. It's getting a little bit better, not much, but it was getting a little bit better. And I think they're
You're
gonna
a
have to
little
stick with him,
more,
honestly.
yeah, you're a little more optimistic than me, but that's
Probably
okay.
than most people. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm also just how high of a pick he was, and because it's really
Yeah.
so early in the career, I do think we're gonna have that that window on him heading into the next year for selling. So that's just my idea on that. If there's anything actionable there.
Cool. And then the final one really that really sucks. Quishon Judkins broken leg. Yeah, it was really kind of hard to tell from like just watching it. Like it didn't seem all that bad. It's kind of like your standard. His leg got kind of hit and but it turns out he broke his leg and then like ankle separated his ankle or something like that. So
yeah.
Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is actually doesn't seem as bad as like your ACL, MCL, PLCL like type of deal. So heal up, King.
Yeah, dislocated ankle, fractured fibula.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good. It's not good, but I agree with you. It's definitely better than, a ligament tear or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, short term, Dylan Sampson's definitely going to probably have a pretty big role in this upcoming game here in the final week of the season. So if you have him, you can probably start him. I imagine he's going to get running back 2-ish, kind of like, volume and maybe production there. So yeah, that's really the only actionable piece of that. But listen, like Uriah said, like if it's not as bad and we're expecting him to heal up, then this is also going to be a buy low window on Judkins, especially right now. Heading like there could be teams who just made the finals.
Yes.
Lost Judkins, go ahead and attempt to send them, a couple valuable starters now that probably aren't going to be as valuable as Quinshawn in the future. So I think that's probably a good exercise to try out.
I agree. Cool. Next topic is the block is not hot, and I do like this. This is like more of a PSA. About the how well certain things work. So I'll just read what Billy put here. He said, "Stop putting players on the trade block in the playoffs. There are really 4 viable trade partners. Just send good offers, get deals done. Don't be lazy. If the consolation bracket winner gets a pick, you can target those 2, but you have to be very specific scenarios to attack and know the needs and what positions they need." And this is great. Like you see people getting bounced from the semis or even the week before the quarters, and then as soon as they're out, they're just like putting players on the trade block. Like it's not really effective. Like if you're really trying to move those players, and you should be, because they're all essentially players that like, okay, you're hopefully riding into the finals with, and then if you end up stuck with them, it's fine, you won, right? So it's fine having those assets on your roster, but then you're trying to offload them just after you lost. You got to send the offers. It's just kind of the way it is. Like I think for the most part, the people that are in the finals or who have advanced, like they're just ignoring that, scrolling right past it. I know I have been. So I think it's a good PSA. What else do you have to add?
Yeah, I mean, that's you're kind of nailing it right there. Is that these teams are most likely well built. They're not seeking out something at this point unless there is an injury or something like that, right? And even then, it's like, did you put a tight end on the trade block when they needed a tight end who got injured? Maybe, maybe not. So it's like, are they even after that piece? So if in the second part of this, right, which I think I said in there and you had said is, just send good offers and get deals done. So the idea is, DJ Moore, for instance, or something like that, just had a big game, probably still going to be the leading target, next week. We're probably not going to see Odunze back that fast. Burden hasn't really, taken the next step and also injured. Is somebody going to buy him for a first? Absolutely not. So don't expect that. Go send a second, or go send him for a second and a third, something reasonable where they're like, oh shit, like that actually makes sense to buy those kind of points, and get those deals done. But they're certainly not going to come to you and send that because number one, they probably don't think that would get it done because they think you're probably trying to, hike up the price on these players anyway. And they may not really be that interested in DJ Moore unless it's at market or just under market price or whatever it may be that makes sense for your rebuild or for your team. So in that sense, like, I just think that you need to be very direct and purposeful about these trades. You can't, like we saw it in all the DU leagues, 10 guys go on the block. Not one deal got done.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
Right. And so if there are guys, and I'm thinking, even like a T-Law or a Gainwell, right? Like T-Law is not the most coveted player, even with the points he scored. I don't see a lot of T-Law trades going down, but he did score a lot of points. I think if you go and approach some people with on the nose deals, you might get something done. You might get something done with that player, especially if you're considering, he's playing a little over his head and you don't really believe in this version of T-Law long term, which is totally possible. Even though he's been, Listen, I've been the T-Law apologist on this show, so I do like the guy, but I think if you're ever looking for an out on him, and in specific league settings where it's maybe challenging to get off of quarterbacks like console wars, then this could be a time where you want to approach that. And so, and I think if you're going to put a guy on the block, like I did go into the league chat and on Group Me for console wars, and I was like, hey, T-Law's on the block, but also I'm going to send offers. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to basically cover all my bases, you know what I mean? But I'm going to be active and purposeful about it as well. And so a guy like Gainwell, like again, who the hell is coming at you to buy Gainwell? But those points are valuable. And he just had another big game. So it's like, if you can throw that into somebody's face for a second straight up, for, a third in maybe a player who is not performing now, but has longer term value, then somebody's probably going to eat that kind of thing up. Now, if you're going to go try to get a late first for Gainwell, I mean, most of these guys are going to tell you to go F yourself. So it's like, be reasonable at this time, because you're either not going to get shit done or you're going to get shit done. And you only have a limited window to do this when these guys are pushing for the playoffs. So you really got to take advantage of it and not let it kind of just, fly by. That's all I got. That's my PSA.
That's a very good PSA. All right, moving on. So Dynasty final exams. No, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Just you can't just phone it in still. Like there's still some like active shit you need to be doing if you're really trying to like, set yourself up for the next phase of this Dynasty cycle. So I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dynasty final exams. So weaponize future picks within reason. So suggestion here is to move future second to late first for reliable vets and players who have longer term value if possible, of course. It's always, the bird in hand or avoiding the whole what's in the box thing. You got to kind of like think about this time of year with your picks. So who do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole section is kind of, 5 or 6 different points, just thinking about, going into the final week of the season, kind of like how you prep for a final exam, right? Like it's, there's a final exam coming up. There's a number of things you got to kind of, prepare for, get lined up, make sure that you're not missing anything. And that's kind of what I was thinking with this, right? So weaponizing future picks, which is something I think is more commonly known, of course, and within reason. But I'm thinking, there's 2 ways to go about it. Obviously, there's guys like Mike Evans, right? Or Stephon Diggs, who I think are going to be well under a first, right? Nobody is expecting at this point a first for Mike Evans or Stephon Diggs, right? Even with the weeks both of them have been having. I love this comment, Tony. Bro, bringing up finals just triggered my PTSD. Yeah, I haven't had final exams for, when did I graduate? I don't know, 16 or 17 from grad school. So yeah, it's been amazing. I do not miss any of that at all. God, that was like 10, 12 years of my life just doing tests. Can't stand it. So yeah, I feel that with the PTSD. But yeah, so Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, guys like that, I think are, examples of what I mean here, where it's like move future seconds or late first for reliable vets and players who have long-term value. So think guys who I'm thinking more longer-term value, and Etienne, right? Travis Etienne, who is performing really well now. He's young enough to totally get a contract from another team. And if you want to get off of him based on whatever he's going to get this offseason, I think you're going to be able to probably gain the value, whatever it is you sell now, back. And I'm not like a late first. I'd probably be asking for Etienne and maybe like a third back or something like that if I'm moving a late first. But I'd be trying to send a couple seconds, those kind of things for players like that. But they are players who I think are pretty different than a Mike Evans, right? Like there's a pretty clear difference between those two guys. Like one has, and the thing is like, I would love to be going and getting, play like Vlad McConkey's or something for low prices for a late first, but that's not going to happen. So you got to be reasonable at this point and say like, okay, if there are players who have some long-term value, they're definitely better than grabbing Mike Evans, who might die on my roster in 2 months. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to point out here. I do think that Evans and Diggs are totally viable options and you can get them for cheaper. But if you are looking for something that's going to sustain a little bit longer for whatever you're going to spend now, I think like an Etienne is a good one. DJ Moore, again, a good one. You're not going to have to spend anything near a first. But I think that he's a guy who, though he's a little bit older, 28, whatever it is, still a couple of D's. Did you just lose me?
No, but you are cutting out.
Did you just lose me, Uriah?
No. Did you lose me?
Okay, great. That's great. All right. Well, I will stop there then, and I will let you give some feedback if you have any.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that probably you're looking at doing these things a little bit differently if you're the ones on the outside looking in, or you're the ones that are actually in the final. So I think we said about it last week. Like, we're talking about, what price are you willing to pay? Like, what are you willing to give up to get a little bit extra? But it's like, I think at this point in time, if you're sitting there in the finals, like, it's probably best just to kind of, I don't know, hold. Dance with the one that brung you, like I said before. Did I freeze? This is not good.
Am I back?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
This is not what we want. Okay. We're just super delayed, I guess. That's the issue here. So we'll hopefully it picks back up. We did get a comment here from Tony. If it'll pop up, because clearly it's going slow. But what player do you see as equal to Diggs, Evans? It's going to be tough. Like, I think you're kind of in like the Chamere DK range. Maybe you can go and get like a Brandon Ayuk, or I don't even know. It's kind of a rough area for player trades in that regard. Jake asking, are you going out and acquiring Chase Brown for the final at a 26 first and a third? I'd be fine with that, honestly. Like, I like Chase Brown, especially if it's a later first, then I'm totally okay with that. I think he's not really going anywhere from that Bengals team, and it's a great situation. But I just think he's a decent player in general, like PPR machine. So I'm fine with that kind of trade. Uriah, any thoughts on that?
No, that's actually a pretty good suggestion there. Of course, it came from Mr. Kornblum himself, who he did just add here. Oh, yeah, sorry about the technical stuff. I switched my Wi-Fi. Maybe it was me. I don't know. But Jake did want us to let you know that he thinks, and we think, that he's one sexy bastard, and we miss him.
That did find its way into the show sheet, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did. And I'll let you take the blame on the Wi-Fi for sure. That's fine with me.
Awesome.
I'm joking. We also have Ricky in here. You guys both sound good from our end, so that's fantastic.
Cool.
Other than I'm sure we were really slow for a second trying to catch each other, but yeah. So I think that's the idea there. Last piece on this would be, I think you need to define what your no regret line is. Like, what am I willing to lose long-term to win today? Because like, once you start defining things, it becomes a lot easier to be actionable on them, right? Once you define, here's my line, you know for a fact you ain't making XYZ trade, and you can tell that to the person too. At this point, like, you can be a lot more direct with people than kind of, trying to hide your intentions, because your intention's to win, right? If you're buying players, especially what we're talking about here, Dynasty final exams, like if you're trying to win and you're in that mode, then like, just tell them, hey, this is my line. If you got something for me, let's make a trade. If not, then I'll find something elsewhere, or I'll just ride with the guys who got me here, right? And I think there is some power in that at this point, because truthfully, at some level, the rebuilders kind of have to take a deal, or they're not getting anything, right, for some of these guys. So I do think that is part of the equation here, and something you can use to your advantage a little bit. But we can keep pushing.
Cool. I do. I just want to say I do really agree with that whole, like, you could be more direct, I think, in your negotiations. And there's not like a game to play there anymore. And I just actually went through that with Joe. We're trying to do like a little tight end swap, but we both have kind of similar intentions. Mine's is to win the toilet bowl, because I'll get the 113. He's in the championship, and we both were
trying to win.
You know what I mean? So, but we're both looking to win tomorrow, and certain tight end has a pretty good matchup. And I was just like, hey man, he sent me an offer, I rejected it, but I told him why in that game. And right away he was just like, Roger. Like, normally I wouldn't be that direct with him. Like, I'd negotiate a little bit more, but it's like, this is not actually going anywhere. So I should probably let you know that right now.
That was it. I love that. And it makes it quick, simple. And again, you can use it to your advantage a little bit, especially with in trades that are more contender and rebuilder, right? Like that's when you can take advantage of it. When it's like that, it's easier to just let each other know. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing. The last piece on this, late picks.
Hey, Joe.
Joe popped in here. Say his name and he appears. Joe, welcome in, brother. The last thing I had here was I do think you can also look to trade some of those unproductive, promising players. But again, that's like, what is your no regret line? Are you willing to move a Luther Burden knowing that he could end up being great down the road, but you're going to get back, maybe you move Luther Burden for Chase Brown plus or something like, I don't even know if that's possible, but you know what I'm saying? You move him for something usable. I don't know what the actual trade would be, but yeah, something along those lines. I wonder if that would work. And obviously those are things that you may regret, but you have to kind of roll the dice on those things and make those decisions. So just another thing to consider there. Definitely define your no regret line.
Excellent. Next one's a block opponent's needs. Now, I always think that this is a little too heady, but you and Jake have actually explained it pretty well, over the times. And I still like, I don't think I fully buy into it. Like, so yeah, scout your opponent's team, even if they're not needed. Denial dynasty value matters. Like, so like right now, theoretically, you are going to be in the finals and you lost Kittle. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that it's valuable for your opponent to go out there and try to like secure a couple extra tight ends that might be on the block or something? Like, does one actually go through all that?
So I think that the lens that you need to look this through is like, is there an option out there that also has serious dynasty value that's available? Right. I'm not saying go and pick up Colby Parkinson, right? Like, go ahead and let your opponent go trade for Colby Parkinson, because we just saw what happened, right? Like 4 points. Okay. Any of those kind of guys, like, I'm not really interested in that. But like, if there is, maybe Kyle Pitts, obviously I'm not a big fan, but if there's a Kyle Pitts available, if there's a McBride available, for some reason he's not on a contender or something and somebody's really trying to make headway, now you're putting together two different things. You're blocking your opponent from getting that other player because they're probably looking at the same thing as you, like, oh shit, I lost a guy. Let me see if there's any elite options out there to go get, because that will not only fill this hole, but it also won't ruin my dynasty value, and I don't mind paying up for it. So like, that's the only time I think that I'm going to do it, is like, let me go and seek out the best options out there that I'd be happy with having no matter what, whether they played on my team or whether I lost the championship, no matter what, right? Like, are they going to be valuable for me for the future, and take that option away from my opponent, right? Like, there's obviously a threshold there where you're probably looking at the top 5 if we're talking tight ends, or if you're looking at, wide receivers, it's like, you don't care if they're going to go get like some ceiling play or if they're going to go get Jacoby Myers. Like, you'll live with that. You'll live with it if a Jacoby Myers beats you, or if a Romeo Doubs beats you. You're not going to go out and pay extra for that. But, can you go get the T. Higgins? Can you go get like those guys who are going to have longer term value that may be on those rebuilders that your opponent could easily go grab for a decent price? You want to kind of get in the middle of that, and then you're not hurting yourself at all, almost, and I think those are the kind of things where I would look to do it and let them go get the lower tier players. Like, what you're doing, you're almost forcing them into those lower tier players, because they're like, oh shit,
in a way.
Like, now I just lost one of my options on this rebuilder team. So I think that's the idea. It's not always going to be possible, but I think if you're at this point of the season, you ain't got much left to do. I think this is what you have to do. You need to go seek out these opportunities, and this isn't maybe not the one of the all that we're going to talk about that's the most pertinent and that's the most effective, but I do think that there is some potential advantage there to at least taking a look.
Cool. And then also trim roster fat. This is good. We'll see this quite a bit, moving forward. Right now we're just seeing random players getting dropped, which I think that you have plenty of time before the rookie season comes up. Try to squeeze some value out of that. But yes, sell players with any value that you may not need any longer and potentially will drop in value next year, or that you might end up dropping from your team. So it's just, I think you see it every year in every league, that there's somebody that gets just dropped for roster space because they're just clearing out the bench. That's probably could have got a 4th, or you could have put 2 of them together and got a 3rd or something like that. You do see it like often. So there's no reason to go ahead and just start dropping players right now. Try to go get anything you can for them. I think that's just one of those final things you need to do towards the end of the dynasty season when you have nothing left to do. You're not setting rosters, so try to get whatever value you can for these guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this wasn't. I don't think it was maybe it was actually a competitor. I think it was a playoff team that dropped Caleb Williams in one league, right? Or Caleb Williams. Where am I? Caleb Williams. Caleb Johnson in one league. Caleb Johnson, the running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And again, nobody here is being like, you got to have Caleb Johnson on your team. But
this guy.
Yeah, but you can, the thing is though, this is a DU league. At the very least, he has to be thinking to himself, Uriah might want this guy because if you're in a DU league, you should know the bare minimum that Uriah likes Caleb Johnson at a little bit. So if you're going to drop him, why not send him to you for 2/4 or a third? Because you might be willing to send that. Who knows, right? Definitely, probably the former, the 2/4. I'm sure you'd be like, I'll take a shot on this guy, whatever. Which I don't think is a bad idea necessarily, but dropping him is crazy. And so yeah, I mean, I also think like obviously this applies to it was a rebuilder. Okay, excuse me. It was the rebuilder who dropped them. Jake, of course, Dynasty historian, has all the answers.
Historian, still, even that's even worse. Like
rebuilder drop Caleb. Exactly.
Don't drop running backs or soon to be second year running backs. Like don't do it, especially with the draft capital. Like it's just don't do that.
Yeah, draft him in 111, drops him. Like that's just, it can't happen this fast.
Obviously, I give you a fourth all day.
Yeah, and obviously, like I'm thinking like Treylon Burks 4 years into his career. Yeah, you drop him then, but it's like, but we play in 25, 30-man roster leagues or whatever it is, and you have enough space to carry that guy on your team, right? Lefty Joe in here, prices might not be market value, but if they wouldn't make your roster, get what you can. Yeah, exactly. For sure. And that's the thing. If you're even considering like, I just want to get rid of this player, like go send some offers, man. At the very least, go look at a keep trade cut, see what their value is, and just send that market offer and see what happens. Like Caleb Johnson is not worth much, don't get me wrong, but still, I just think that, and again, Joe, very right here, this is where you use auto accept block, right? That's totally a valid response here, where it's like, if you got a bunch of guys like this, go ahead and throw them on the auto trade accept block, or the market price board, as we call it. And so I do think that is a really viable option there as well.
And two recent examples, I'll just, so I don't forget, but like you have Kamani Vidal, who had value to your teams this year and was a guy that I was looking just to cut in August. And I'm like, well, he's only been in the league 1 year. Like, let's see what happens. And then also Blake Corum was another guy. It's kind of like didn't really do anything. And then he was.
That's a great example.
Had some value this year. Like, look,
how many people would have dropped him? Totally.
I could understand moving him off your team, but go out and try to get something. Somebody will give you something for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, Jake brings up a great point here. And our leagues expand to 30-man rosters in the offseason. Now is not the time to trim. Know your leagues, and at least not in that way. So, I think trimming the roster fat can make sense here, especially for contenders, because you do know at this point, like once you get here, you're like, I might not need these guys anymore, and they might not have that much value. I'm thinking of like Michael Carter or JCM, like at this point. Hunter Henry may not have that much value going forward, but is scoring some points. Waller is another one, right? Debo Samuel, if you want something a little more higher profile, and then maybe even Zay Flowers. Granted, Zay Flowers is going to be a decent player for a while, but he's scoring a little bit over his head right now, surprisingly. And he's a lot more of a flat scorer. So I think that this is the time where you can maybe evaluate your rosters and be like, look, I'm not playing him in the finals. It don't matter. He ain't making my roster right now. I can trim some fat off of this team and make some headway into the rookie draft next year, or gain some dynasty value, or those championship tokens, as we call them, going forward. So I do think it's an opportunity for both rebuilders, of course, in this time can do this, and contenders. I do think that it's an opportunity to kind of look at that and see what you can do there before the season's over.
Excellent. Cool. Next thing would be to prepare multiple lineup paths, which is important given, the NFL's been suspension heavy this week. It got me worried about my Puka share a little bit, just because he can't shut up a little bit.
Fair. I mean, definitely should shut up. I don't think he's going to get suspended for it, but
yeah,
definitely
you know what I
should
mean. I'm just like, they don't
pipe
like
down.
that. But yeah, and then just things pop up, random inactives and all that stuff. So maybe during like weeks 5, 6, and 7, you set your lineup on like a Wednesday, and you're just like, yeah, it's probably good for the week. Now it's a little bit more critical, I think, to really pay attention to that stuff. So as the saying goes, you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I really like that. And then floor and ceiling pivots in case of injuries, for example. So we had brought up the other week Josh Larkey, if you follow him on social media. Wow. He puts out a pretty good sheet. I don't know, someone's shooting a gun out there or something.
Oh, good God. I do kind of hear the pops going off in the background. Wow. All right.
Okay. You have to do some editing for the pod.
Stay safe.
But yeah, so I don't live in the hood. Anyway,
you live in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it makes sense that there's shots.
Yeah. But anyway, Josh Locke puts out a pretty good sheet that's like a matchup specific, based on even just like slot usage and all this other stuff. Like, I always look at that for like maybe my final flex spot or my final 2 flex spots, and just kind of like, if something doesn't feel right, weather permitting, or maybe he was questionable a couple days, before then I always kind of want to look at that and like select my next best option and just have it ready. Like, and I think that's really important. It seems like probably everyone listening is like, well, yeah, we always have, but not everybody does. I think that a lot of people that will set their lineups, especially if the more leagues you have, you just look at it like, yeah, I set that lineup, we're good to go. But like, these little things kind of matter. So that would be my advice, is to follow Josh Larkey. Just flow sheets is pretty valuable, I think. A little insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And then I agree with pretty much everything you said here. I do think, the preparing multiple lineup paths, it's like, look at your roster, speaking to the George Kittle thing. Like, what are you going to do if George Kittle's out? How are you going to best optimize this thing? So you don't have to think about it the last second, because a lot of these decisions are going to be made, Saturday, whatever it is, Friday night, when these injury reports come out. So you really do have to, just be paying attention, based on, like, looking at your opponent's lineup and yours. Like, do they have a lot of players going before your players go? So are you going to know, do I need to throw in, whatever this ceiling player is on my bench, instead of, hoping for the floor player to just gain me the points, right? So I do think that there are important things that you can do in terms of just preparing, looking at what those different lineups look like. Obviously, you want to set your best lineup, but some of us have depth. Some of us have a couple guys who are in the same range. Which ones are the guys who are floor plays? Which ones the guy are the ceiling plays? And look at that and what's going to best fit this matchup. Jake in here, add auto sub to the DU leagues, peasant. I mean, I could just make an executive decision and do that.
We had it. I feel like DU1.
Yeah, it was voted on. Yeah, what are you talking about, Jake? We voted on it in all our leagues. It was the only one that passed. Yeah, it was the only one that passed. Yeah, so maybe we'll throw that in to the vote for this offseason. We'll see. But yeah, so that's really all it is with the preparing multiple lineup paths. We got one more here. Hop into it.
All right. One last thing for our final exam, kind of, PSAs and just reminders for, playing Dynasty, some of the things that you just don't, I guess, obviously think about too hard towards the end of the season. But you got to stay active. Effort and commitment can win championships. Don't sleep now. My mouth is not working. Check for surprise inactives that happen in week 17 all the time. And this is kind of one of those things like that our teams now eliminated from the playoffs, who have had starting players that have got us this far. That's always like my biggest concern, is like, okay, are they going to rest Joe Burrow? Because what does he have to play for? Are they going to rest Dak Prescott? Because what does he have to play for? And it's like, at some point, it's almost like you don't want to get over your skis about worrying about it, but man, that could happen, right?
Absolutely.
Any one of those players is down to multiple scores and it's the second quarter, they're getting yanked, because it is what it is, right? That's a financial decision made by the GM and the coach and all that stuff. And like, that shit's scary.
Dude, Kenny Gainwell is a much more viable option or reliable option than a lot of these guys at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of them can get pulled, and you know that he's probably not, or a guy like that. I'm just throwing a random one out there that he's like not super valuable. But those kind of guys, I think this is the time where you're like, you kind of got to put everything to the side and be like, what's the best option this week? Like, what is the actual best option this week? Is it Justin Jefferson? Or because now we're going with Max Brosmer. Okay. Like, it's not even JJM who wasn't doing great for Justin Jefferson either. But it's like, do you do that or do you play Gainwell? It's like, though, that's a real consideration. I mean, it was a real consideration last week too. And you would have been right if you picked Gainwell. But, those are things that you have to think about at this point. And like, I'm just thinking back to this weekend, Woody Marks was kind of a late inactive and was like, I think it was the last 10 minutes before games got going or something, like 10, 20 minutes. If you're not dialed in, paying attention, this is holiday week. You got a lot going on. Like, you got to plan some bathroom time, wherever you're at. You have the families on Saturday, plan some bathroom time 10, 20 minutes before the game gets going and just hit those lineups and see what happens. Like, I'm serious though. Like, I know how it is. We got kids now. We got family. Like, wife is like, get off your phone, bro. We're at a family function. You can watch the game on the TV. And I'm like, you don't understand. It's deeper than that. We got to get in there.
It's deeper than that. I love it.
But truthfully, like, we haven't talked about it as much lately, but I really do think effort and commitment wins those championships in these critical situations. If you're paying more attention than your opponents are, that's where you're going to get ahead. And it's really not a time to sleep or let up right now. This is when you got to really stay in it and look around for what's going on. And honestly, I'm not, obviously the trade block I was saying is the block is not hot, but you should be keeping an eye on who's going on the block and are there really valuable players hitting that are maybe going for lower value because of the team situation or whatever it may be, and attack those things, man. Like, get ahead of your opponents on these and pay attention to what's going on in your league. This is the last week you have to really do it in terms of your path to championship. You know what I mean? There's going to be plenty of things to do in the off season, plenty of other things to do, but this is really where you got to kind of hone in and focus in. And like Uriah said, like, it's easy to be like, I'm in the championship. I'm setting my lineup on Wednesday and I'm going to forget about it. I'm good. You can't do that. You can't do it. And I know it seems like a belabored point, but I really don't think it is if you think about it.
Excellent. That was pretty good. We will move on to trades and untrades and get out of here, man.
That's it. Good luck in your finals, everybody. Just, put that effort in, look at everything you can do, prepare, and good luck. Hopefully you win it.
Unless you're playing me.
Yes. If you're playing me, I hope you lose in the most disappointing, diabolical fashion. Yeah, embarrassing fashion.
Cool. So we have a couple trades here, and we'll get out of here. So DU4, we got Marcus Mariota for a 27 third.
Oh man, yeah. This is my trade. I feel like some context is worth throwing in here. So I made this trade prior to semifinals week because I had lost Tua to the benching, which, by the way, looks like a terrible decision, or at least not a great decision. Like, that could not have been performance necessarily based, or at least believing the other guy was performing better. No way. But I lost Tua. I didn't have another backup. I didn't feel like my depth pieces were really quality enough to have more potential than a Mariota type or some of the other, backup quarterbacks who have been playing well. Obviously, it blew up in my face because Mariota got injured in the first or second quarter or whatever. And he would have needed to have a pretty damn good game to even kind of get me close. But I don't feel that bad about it. I think that's kind of what you have to do in that situation. I think a 27 third is really not that much. You're not going to regret it that much. And I do think there's a potential that I can get that back next year at some point. Like, you know what I mean? There's totally a world where Mariota starts for this team or another team due to an injury. And you can get even 2/4 or something like that where I can get something back. And so that's kind of how I was looking at it. I will say there were a couple other trade offers out there. I went, directly to DMs for a couple people, and I was like, hey, what's Brissett's value? What's Kirk Cousins' value, right? And they all wanted seconds. And I probably would have done the same thing. To be honest, I would have been like, hey, I want a second for these guys because I do think they can have maybe longer term value. Mm-hmm. But there is there is that world where this happens and you get nothing, right?
Yes.
And do you get something for Kirk next year? Do you get something? You know, I think Brissett maybe is a little bit more viable because he's played himself into a potential starting role, that we've seen that go sideways plenty of times with him. That said, I understand that one more because I do think that that's, you know, there's a world where you can get a second for him into next year anyway. But you got to be careful as a rebuilder in moments. Sometimes you got to take what's there. You know what I mean? Sometimes. And the Brissett one aside, I think Kirk is a little like, is he really going to start somewhere again next year? Maybe. Are you going to get more than a third or a couple thirds from him? Probably not. Like, I don't think he's going to be a starter, but he could definitely do this again where he's a backup and starts, you know, for like Mariota. So yeah, just got to be careful with that as a rebuilder. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Uriah?
Yeah, no, I think you did what you kind of had to do, right? It was going back to that first point where you said, like, what are you willing to, what's your limit, right? You know, that was your line. You're like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to spend a third for the starting quarterback because my other options aren't as good as actually getting an actual quarterback in there. And Mariota's had some really good games. So, yeah, I mean, that's price, and that's a 27 third. Like, who cares? I totally agree with you. I think Mariota could actually go for another third again at some other point in his life. Like, that's why we keep extra quarterbacks.
Yep.
DU5, Michael Carter, 255 for Jaden Blue.
So I thought, so this was actually, I believe it was a contender. Yeah, DU5. I think Big Boy's a contender. And this is kind of this isn't exactly how I would love to do it, but I do think that this is an example of trimming the fat, right? Like, it's Michael Carter. Moving on from that, I actually had to look and see who got that. Who got Michael Carter? It may have been the contender actually at that point, but for Jaden Blue, and Jaden Blue, obviously the idea is maybe he has some future value where Michael Carter will likely be on a practice squad again, like every other year. Yeah. So I think that actually does make some sense, but I'd be looking more for, like, it was Lapisaurus. Okay, fair enough. I'd be looking more for like 4th round picks or something, just liquid value, right? If you can do it with those kind of players. But yeah, I get it. I think, you know, Jaden Blue makes sense if you're hoping that, you know, he comes back from the injury and can back up Javonte next year, because it sounds like Javonte's going to get a contract.
Yeah. But the trade makes sense, so I understand why he did it. DU3, 27 second for Derrick Henry. This trade was made before the semis, and it was really just Joe being scared to go up against me, and so he had to bring. No, man, it's smart. It's a 27 second. The Derrick Henry owner is probably thrilled that he's able to get something now, you know, because you never know what's going to happen with the older running back. But Derrick Henry scoring points. Joe had an amazing team before this. This just kind of, I think, is a way for him to be like, hey, look, I'm really, really fortified now. And it didn't really cost him anything. So I think that's a good trade for him.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there.
Power move.
I think, I think this is like a great example of kind of what we were talking about in terms of, what was it called? Weaponizing future picks. Like, this is a perfect way to do it, man. Like, Derrick Henry is prime example of somebody who, you know, is on that Mike Evans path of, like, just value is slowly declining, but he's still a great player, obviously. Mm-hmm. And is somebody going to actually get, you know, a first for him? Definitely not. I think you could probably have gotten more than this, a second and a third, maybe 2 seconds even. But this totally worked out for Joe. I mean, I think it's Joe said, bought myself something nice. Yeah, it's holiday season. You got to buy yourself a little gift, right? And yeah, man, he came through with, you know, 20 plus points and could have had even more if John Harbaugh wasn't a bozo and actually played him the last quarter, because I don't know what the hell he was thinking there. I mean, the explanation was absolutely insane. Well, you know, who's the other running back there? What's the other guy?
Keaton Mitchell.
Well, you know, it was Keaton Mitchell's turn, is pretty much what he said. He's like, I would have loved he literally said, I would have loved to get Derrick Henry in there, as if he didn't have a choice. It's bizarre. You've never seen it. I mean, I've seen stuff like it, but rarely see stuff like that, especially from a coach like him, who's, you know, it's just crazy. It was just crazy. But yeah, I think that was a great move for Joe.
Cool. I think that's it, man. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, happy holidays to everybody again. Thank you for anybody who joined us live tonight. I mean, again, this is the holiday week, so Everybody's busy. Really appreciate that. We'll get the pod out ASAP so you have something to listen to in the downtime over the next couple days. But oh man, it was a great season so far. Good luck to everybody, and good luck to you, Uriah.
Thanks, man. Have a good night, everybody.
That's all I got. Peace out. Later, guys.
Later.